What's up guys, Myles here, Nomad Millionaire, and today I wanted to talk to you about the top 5 biggest reasons why people fail on Amazon FBA and how to prevent them from happening to you. So I've made some of these mistakes myself while growing my own business over the last 12 months, but I've learned that once you can recognize these problems for what they are, you can also prevent or avoid them really easily. So I hope that you can learn from my mistakes. And without further ado, let's talk about the top 5 reasons why people fail in Amazon FBA. So number 1 is not doing your product research correctly. Now I want to start by saying that I don't mean that you have to have a perfect product, because if you try and look for the perfect product, you're going to take forever and you're never going to complete it because there is no such thing as a perfect product. But what I mean is you have to make sure that you're not going to get wiped out by some of these they're hidden, but at the same time, once you've seen them, they're obvious risks. Minimize these and you'll be okay. Make sure that there's market demand. So I really don't recommend just having this awesome idea in your head or thinking that it's awesome, not really doing any market research, and then just going to China, sourcing a supplier, getting it made, probably having to pay to get molding done because it's like a new innovative idea. That's nice, and it's definitely so many good businesses are built like that. But for what we want to do, we want to generate sustainable, profitable cash flow in the easiest way possible. So what you need to do is find a product and a niche that already has existing demand, because that way that whole risk is gone. You know that people want to buy that product. So the second thing, which is the flip side, is getting into a niche which is just way too competitive. A key metric that I like to use is the revenue per review. So that's like the dollars of revenue that the product is getting per number of reviews that it has. Basically, the higher the revenue and the lower the reviews, the less competitive that niche or that product will be. You want revenue, you don't want existing reviews. Because if there are 1,000 reviews on all the other products on the first page, how is your product going to be able to compete with them? In general, it's not going to be able to. And so the only way that you can make that work is just by spending a lot of money over a long period of time to slowly get those reviews and get up there. But guys, I don't recommend it, especially if you're a beginner. It's just really difficult. So what we're looking for is that middle competitive ground where there's a decent amount of demand, dollars, and low amount of reviews. Less than 100 is great. I sometimes go higher than that. If you can find something lower than that, fantastic. Another thing is seasonality. So if you're doing your product research, and guys, there are so many videos on YouTube made in December, because in December, every product on Jungle Scout looks great. So please look out for that. If you're watching one of those product research videos and they're showing you all of these hot products and it's in the middle of December, what you need to recognize is that those products throughout January to probably October or even November, they're gonna sell half as many, a quarter as many, potentially even 10% of the sales that they're showing you. So you need to understand seasonality. And the way that I like to do that, there's 2 tools that I use. One is Keeper, which is a little extension where it'll show you the price and the sales rank over time for all of these products. Another tool that I use is Google Trends. So go and check that main keyword and just see what the graph looks like over those months. You can see it over time. It tells you so much very quickly. So don't go into things by just looking at the numbers during the peak of the season, because you're just going to be so disappointed when you come onto the market in 2 months' time and it's low season and you can't get any sales. You'll know why. The next thing is just another really big risk that just takes people out and it can destroy your product, which is going into restricted products or things that have either Amazon restricts them or customs or whichever country you're importing to will restrict them. So things like hazmat, hazardous materials, batteries. There are so many things that you need to check for, patented products as well. There are quite simple ways of checking this. So for example, if you Google in, I think Amazon restricted products will probably bring you up as the first result, the list of things that they restrict. You can also do patent searches as well. So some telltale signs that there's a restriction in place is basically that metric, which I mentioned before, reviews per revenue or dollars per revenue rather, that's really high. So there's a really bad product with a terrible listing with no reviews, but it's selling so much. Normally it's because there's a reason why no one else can sell that product. So definitely look out for that. Product research is the key part of the process. If you get this completely wrong, I'm not saying you have to get it perfect, but if you get it completely wrong, you will fail. One last thing, guys, is especially as a beginner, if this is your first product, stick to products that are relatively flat, not that seasonal. For example, I like to sell seasonal products because I can estimate these things. I use Google Trends, I use Keeper, and I can work out where that demand will be at different times of the year, and therefore I can estimate inventory requirements. But if you're just starting, pick something that on Google Trends or Keeper looks pretty flat. It's just gonna be much, much easier for you. Number 2, guys, is not launching your product correctly. So you've done the research, you haven't been wiped out by any of those risks. You've got a product that has the right amount of competitiveness, the right amount of demand, it's not restricted, you've got it into Amazon, you've got the listing done, and Crickets, you're not getting any sales, what's going on? The reason is that you probably didn't launch your product correctly. Basically, you're gonna start off at like page 20, page 30, and no customer is gonna flip through 30 pages of results just to get to your brand new product. It's not gonna happen. So you need to have a strategy in place to get your product up in those rankings, get that upwards momentum, basically not trick, but make Amazon think that your product is worth showing to people. Because once it thinks that it's worth showing to people, it'll show them to the customers. And if then you've done your listing correctly, so you've optimized everything, I talk about the 80-20, so it's particularly the main image, particularly the first words in the title, the price is obviously very important, and then reviews as well. Once you've got those things in place, you need to give it this initial push. So one of the main strategies at the moment is to do a giveaway. There are services that do that, or you can do it yourself. Basically, giving away your product at a steep discount just to get people to start buying it so that Amazon sees that people are buying it. If you don't want to do that, there's another alternative, or there are various alternative strategies. What I often do is just launch my product at like pretty low price, where relative to its niche, its competitors, it's definitely sitting at the lower end. And so it stands out. A customer sees that and they go, hey, same product or similar product, but it's cheaper, so I'm gonna pick that one. And then I just push heavy PPC, which means basically like paying dollars to Amazon to get Amazon to put my listing at the top. And then people see it, they see the low price, they start clicking on it, they start buying it, and then Amazon realizes that it's worth buying and it pushes it up organically as well. You can also use external social media traffic. So Facebook ads are a really popular way of doing this. Basically, guys, you need to get your listing moving. If you don't get it moving at the start, it'll just never happen. And you'll be left wondering and scratching your head like, what's going on? Did I pick the wrong product? You didn't pick the wrong product. You just didn't get that whole process moving, get those wheels turning. Number 3, not understanding your costs. So guys, if you're relatively new to this and maybe you're just starting, you probably see a lot of videos where people will go on Amazon, have Jungle Scout up, show these great revenue numbers, go on Alibaba, take the unit cost and then subtract the two, and that's how much profit you're gonna make. It's not. So what you need to do is really like have a good idea of all of these other hidden costs, which I'm gonna explain. And by the way, I am gonna put out a detailed video on this because it's so important. So let's run through an example to see just how important this is to get all of these numbers right, or at least to have an understanding that you will have to pay them at some point. So we know when we sell our item, we know that Amazon is going to take its referral fee of around 15%, and it's going to take its fulfillment fee for doing that wonderful service of packing the item, sending it to the customer, and dealing with the customer service. We also know that we've paid the supplier for the cost of the goods. We've also paid for shipping as well. Now, depending on whether we shipped air or sea, we've also paid duties. So that can be between 3 and 30% of the item cost. So we need to account for that. But not only that, a certain percentage of the customers are going to return the item. I think the average is around 5%. It varies a lot based on what you're selling. T-shirts, for example, maybe up to 20%, but it's around 5% on average. And so that means that a lot of those items that get sent back by these customers are no longer sellable. And so you are gonna eat that loss. You also need to account for storage fees. So Amazon charges you to store your stuff in its warehouse. During most of the year, this isn't a huge cost, but if you, for example, take more than 6 months to sell your products, or you're selling during Christmas, which is peak season, those fees go up significantly. And if you haven't recognized that they're there, you're just going to be ending up with a lot less profit than you expect. The other really big thing is PPC. Never forget that you have to almost always spend money on Amazon advertising to get your product to help with those upward rankings, like I mentioned before. If you haven't accounted for them, again, at the end of the day, you're going to realize that you're making less money than you expected. But please, know your costs. Understand that it's not just those big ones that people talk about, it's all of the rest as well, and they all come out of the money that you're making. Number 4 is not scaling your business. So you've got your product into Amazon, you did the research correctly, the market's good, you've launched it, you're making money. Now what do? Scale, guys. Don't stop there. It's a really nice feeling to have that success start to pay off, but don't squander it. And this is so critical as well, because now that you've done that process once, you've learned all those mistakes the hard way, or potentially maybe not even had to make those mistakes. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna do it better the next time and the time after that. And what you'll find is that at some point, everything just becomes easier and easier as you realize like how simple this business model really is. And that's the point in which suddenly your life can change, but not only your life, like you can start to change the lives of your family, of the people around you, whatever you want to do. But that probably won't happen with the first product. So like work towards that future, because you can make it happen. And again, if you've already done that first product successfully, you're past 99% of people already. Don't squander that. Keep moving forwards, keep building it, and just keep growing. Number 5, lack of commitment. And so this is taking it all the way back to the start. This failure can happen at any stage in the process, and it can also happen further down the line as well. Basically, you started and then you stopped, or you thought about it and you never started. You didn't have the persistence to keep going. And guys, I think there's a few reasons why this can happen. I think the first one is laziness, but honestly, I don't think laziness is the real reason why most people fail due to lack of commitment or lack of follow through. I think normally it's fear, because this is scary, this stuff. E-commerce, it's like this crazy new world that you know nothing about. You don't know if your product's the right one. All of these things could go wrong. And that I can totally understand. Fear is something that affects all of us. We can't avoid it. What we have to do as entrepreneurs, or really anybody who wants to achieve success and great things in their life, accept that it's always gonna be there, and you just have to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable with that fear. Seek out the knowledge as well as the emotional support of other people, guys. None of us live in a bubble by ourselves, and we definitely shouldn't try and start a business and try and do something so risky and so unknown by ourselves in a bubble as well. But persistence also means trying things in a different way. So if, say you launched a product and it didn't stick and you just can't get those sales, don't just keep trying to launch your product over and over again. Don't just keep burning money. Take a step back, stop everything, have a really objective look at what the source of the problem is, because there will be a reason for it. Maybe it's your price. Maybe you didn't get reviews. Maybe you didn't do the launch process correctly, or you're not doing it correctly. Maybe it is the product. Maybe you didn't do your product research correctly. If you can't take that step back, or you do and you can't work out what the reason is, don't just stop, don't just give up. Seek guidance, get support from somebody who's been through that before. Seek a mentor, go to a Facebook group and just ask the question, get other people's perspectives. If you're not sure, if you want, leave me a comment. If you have any questions like that, I'm happy to answer them from my perspective. So work persistently, but also work intelligently, get support where you need it, and accept that fear, guys, that's always gonna be there. You just have to move forwards through it. All right, guys, that's it. Those are the top 5 biggest reasons why people fail on Amazon FBA and how to prevent them. So I hope that this has been really helpful for you guys. I would love for you to give me a thumbs up if you found this valuable. Please subscribe to my channel, and please also click the notification bell button so that you can be notified as I put out new videos on Amazon FBA from my perspective as a 7-figure seller every week. Thank you so much for watching. Stick around and I'll see you in the next one.